duck hunter and pheasant hunter, and she has volunteered her time to come to the bow program to help co-teach classes on duck hunting, and she's having a learn to pheasant hunt class this year as well. So she's just very adamant about helping women learn how to hunt. She's also married to Tom Dokken, which many of you might have heard. He's with the Dokken Oak Ridge Kennels, which is one of the largest training facilities in the upper Midwest. And what she has done by being with him for 25 years is she has learned how to train hunting dogs. This past year, she got her own hunting dog, again, another puppy that she has trained, and she has put all that how to train information on her YouTube site called Tina Dokken Unleashed. And that YouTube site is under the chat function. So she's not a professional trainer, but she's been married to one for 25 years. And she really could be a professional trainer. She's very knowledgeable. And she's very willing to help women learn how to hunt. So with that, I want to thank Tina for volunteering her time. I got to let people know that the storm knocked out all the power in South Dakota where she lives. She had to drive this morning over to Lynn Lake Lodge, who has a generator, who's helping bring this live to you today. So she had quite the ordeal this morning, but we're really appreciative of you being here today, Tina. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Linda, for having me and for working with me. Gabby was actually supposed to be on the screen to start this whole webinar off, but of course I'm at the neighbors, and so she could not be with us, but I have plenty of pictures to share with you. Linda, thanks again for giving me this opportunity. As an educator, I'm always wanting to help others learn, and that's just the teacher in me. And of course, I've learned so much from my husband. I just want to pass this on. And I'm going to, there we go. So actually, my husband has a book called Tom Dokken's Retriever Training. And obviously I use that book as great pictures, but as a 7th grade math teacher, I always made sure all of my students had a video for every single lesson. And so I thought to myself, you know, we get lots of calls from friends and family, and they're always asking questions. Please send me a video to do this, to show me this. And I was sending these videos out all the time. And I thought, you know, when I get my new puppy, I'm just going to put Gabby on YouTube and make her the star of the channel and just share her gun dog journey with everybody so that everybody can also learn. Because, you know, you only get a puppy every 8 to 10 years. And so sometimes you tend to forget things, as I did. And it was helpful to obviously have my husband help me out with that. This is when you click on the channel, basically you will have this view of lots of videos. And so I encourage you to check it out. It starts from the very beginning of her journey, and it's really a fun project. I am not going to win awards for videos by any means, but I thought, you know, this is really a fun project for me and Tom to participate in. A little bit about myself. I am a 7th grade middle school math teacher. I'm a golf coach. I actually went to Kansas University, played golf there, and got a business degree. I'm a dog mama of 3 Labradors. I have an 11-and-a-half-year-old Sassy. She's a chocolate lab. Chase is a black male. He's 8. And then I have Gabby, who is a little over a year. She turned a year July 28th. I was actually introduced to hunting in my 30s with my very first chocolate. That was four labs ago. And she drove me into some of these outdoor shows where I actually met my husband, and he got me started into the hunting world. And I'm a firearm safety instructor. I'm on the pro staff for Franke Shotguns. I'm an upland waterfowl and archery hunter. And like Linda said earlier, my husband owns Dokken's Oak Ridge Kennels, one of the largest training facilities in the upper half of the United States. They train anything with fur, but primarily they focus on gun dogs, which I reap all of the benefits that I can possibly. And then this is why I created this YouTube series, Unleashed, because I consider my husband, he's the leashed version. I'm the unleashed version. We have a great time doing this project, and I'm excited. Hopefully you'll check it out. And let's talk about finding your puppies. So here are some of the highlights I'm going to go through. Male or female? Who are you buying from? how do you look at a pedigree and determine, is this a good pedigree? And then veterinarian considerations. So male or female, it really doesn't matter. We have both. My husband, his kennels train thousands of dogs, and what they tend to see is the males tend to mature just a little bit slower. That being said, I've seen many males that have the same learning speed as females as well. Keep in mind that, if you get a female, they're going to come into heat about a couple times a year, so that might be a consideration for you. But their gender will not determine their ability to hunt. And then who are you buying for? We actually buy puppies for our customers, and we work with the top breeders in the country. And we have certain health requirements that we expect. So, for instance, guarantee on hips, eyes, and elbows. EIC, that actually was a gene that the University of Minnesota discovered in 2008. And if your dog is affected by it, they will collapse if they get too much exercise. So you want to make sure that your dog is clear of that. So these are all the minimum requirements. There's so many genetic tests that you can test for nowadays that rule things out. Now, does that mean it's not necessarily going to show up eventually? It could, but the likelihood of not seeing it for generations, that just gives you a little bit more security that it's not going to happen. Discuss the details with your breeder before you purchase the puppy, so you're well aware of the guarantees that they offer. And then also, whether you're working with us, now we love when you buy a puppy from us at Oak Ridge Kennels, because you're buying us. So if you have questions, we want you to call us, because it's better to do it right the first time with your puppy than have to undo a problem. However, that being said, if you're working with a breeder, somebody else, just talk with the breeder about their personalities, because sometimes, you might go visit the puppies, and the one puppy who's sleeping, well, they just spent 4 hours racing around, so they might be tired, and you might want a little bit more giddy up, is what I call it. You might want a little bit more giddy up with your dog, but that dog was just was racing around for the last 4 hours, so that's why it's tired. So just talk with the breeder and discuss, what kind of personalities that they have when you're picking. But for the most part, when you buy bloodlines, that is the number one thing that you want to buy when you are looking at a pedigree. And pretty much, if you buy a good bloodline, if you have a great pedigree, you can pretty much just pick up the puppy out of the pen, and you're going to have a great hunting dog. But just some thoughts here: when you're looking at a pedigree, you'll see titles like field champion, national field champion, amateur field champion, master hunter, senior hunter, junior hunter. These are all titles. I've had people say to me, well, I really don't need those titles. I don't need a field champion. However, you do want these titles, because that just says that they have natural ability, easy to train. It's almost like when you coach a basketball team, you want naturally gifted athletes, like, say, Michael Jordan's talent, because then it's easier to train them, because they've got that natural ability. They pick up on things really quickly. So pedigree is extremely important. You want them to have a lot of oomph in their pedigree, because you can always reel it in. But as far as getting them excited, the excitement's already going to be there, that natural ability. And you can reel that in later on, versus trying to get them out in the field and get them excited. And this is an example of, on the left-hand side is Gabby's mom, and her name is Gabby. Yep, I was real creative in her name, but they were very similar in personality, so I named my Gabby Sweet Repeat Gabby. And then her dad's on the left, Yogi. And you can see all the titles on both sides of the mom and dad. And that's what you want to look for when you look for titles. Feel free to reach out to me if you've got a pedigree you're looking for. I'll have my husband. I'm pretty good at it. But of course, my husband's been at it for a really long time. So feel free to reach out to me if you're curious about a particular pedigree. Vet considerations. We try to get a vet that has had experience with hunting dogs and really know how do you get a hold of them in emergency situations, because if you're hunting, it's on a weekend, you want to know that you have access to them very quickly if you are put in an emergency situation. Equipment, we're going to get into talking about equipment, but for the basic equipment, you're going to want a platform, which is on the left-hand side. Platform, there can be lots of different platforms. We'll get into that. You want a 6-foot leash. A check cord is check cord is 30 foot, and it's 3 times longer than your leash. You're going to have your crate, and we'll get more into discussion about what those look like. So for instance, let's talk about the leash. There's actually a way to put the leash on, and we call this a training leash because when we put it on, as you can see in the first picture, I'm going to put it on, I'm going to actually put it around my hand so that when I lift the leash up, straight up, you're going to put some pressure around their neck, and then when you release the pressure, when you let the leash fall down, it's going to release the pressure. We call that pressure on, pressure off, and we're going to talk about that in the next slide. But that kind of leash is really important for later training with obedience and in the beginning stages too as well. And then you've got your nylon collar. You've got your whistle. Whistle is a great way to incorporate sit and come or hear. And because when they sit, they're going to hear that whistle, so they're going to relate, oh, the whistle must mean sit. The hardest part for me when I first got my chocolate lab, I had her for 5 years before I met Tom. And when he told me hunting dogs can't have squeaky toys, I was horrified. Samantha had 100 toys, and she knew the name of every single toy, and I could tell her to go get that toy. But when they're squeaking it, when they're squeezing that toy, that's just encouraging them to squeeze the game, squeeze the pheasant, and ruin the meat. So you don't want them squeezing that. Nylobones are good. Don't throw anything at this point for them. And then antlers are great because there's no splinters. They will spend lots of time working on that antler. It also cleans their teeth as well. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can use an antler to encourage shed hunting as well in the next slide. Also with the leash, you're going to want your puppy to drag that leash around or drag that check cord around, because once they get into bird and gun introduction training when they're 5 months of age, they're going to be dragging that leash. So anything you do with a puppy in the beginning stages, you want to get them used to it as a baby, because when they get older and then you expose them to these things again, they're already going to have experience and they're already used to these things that you're going to introduce to them at this stage. Equipment, so we have a remote collar. Tom actually created a lot of things with Gabby, a lot of new things. So when we put her nylon collar on, we put this little weight around her. So she, again, at an early age, she's getting used to wearing a remote collar. So then when she gets older and we put a remote collar on, she's already used to it. The platform, the place command is going to be the best command you are going to use, and you'll see why in later. But a place command can be simply putting them on their dog bed as a place. And as you can see, they're placing it by just laying down. But we'll talk further on what the uses of the platform, because it's just a wonderful way to incorporate the platforms or the beds into your everyday life, and you'll use it the rest of their dog's life. So more equipment, small dummy. Now this is actually Gabby approved, because Tom created this because Gabby was having a little difficult time maneuvering the Dove, which was his smallest. Oops, I just got to go back here. That was his smallest training dummy at the time, was the Dove. But now he has I call it the mini mallard, and it's Gabby approved because he had to test it on her. When we talk about retrieving, people have this misconception that they have to throw that training dummy quite a few times a day, and you really don't. You take that dummy, get in a hallway, throw the dummy once, maybe twice, and then be done. And they're forced to come back at you because you're in a hallway. So there's only one way they can come back, and that's right to you. So when they come to you, hold them, praise them, let them hold them for a little longer. Don't take it out of their mouth right away. So maybe 2 reps a day and be done. You don't need to, I mean, they're a puppy. You don't want them to get bored, so they don't want to do this anymore. So everything with puppies, short, sweet, be done. And here's the antler we talked about. Gabby knows this command, or where's your bone? This is your bone. She's kind of gotten used to that terminology. And when she plays with it, sometimes I'll put it over on the other end of the room and I'll say, find your bone. That's just a way to start to introduce shed hunting, and just another season for them to hunt in the fall. So, or I'm sorry, in the spring. And so I love it. And that was actually Gabby's very first antler she found on her own. I was so thrilled. She came over the hill with it in her mouth. So I love shed hunting, and I love the sheds because to this day she does work on them and gives me a little bit of rest time from having to follow her around the house. So she enjoys having her shed. It's almost like her pacifier. Okay, this is one of the most important things that you can do to your puppy. When you first pick that puppy up, you want to instantly start socializing that puppy. Now, all of these pictures, with the exception of Santa, every single one of these pictures, she was 8 weeks old. That was her very first day. I went, picked her up, brought her back. I took her to the vet, took her to her massage therapist, the hardware store, her chiropractor, the coffee place, and of course, car rides. So this was her first day home with me. Another drill that is really important that your entire family participate in, and I would say several times a day, is called the pressure on, pressure off. And the top left-hand picture where I'm holding her, puppies, and it all starts when you go to the breeder and you pick that puppy up for the first time. And the breeder is starting to give you instructions. And your puppy is thinking, this is great, but I want on the ground. So your puppy starts to struggle. You don't want to deal with the struggle. You put that puppy on the ground, and basically that puppy just put you and enrolled you in their training program. What they learned was, all I have to do is struggle, and this person will just give in and let me have my way. So the way you avoid that is you start the pressure on, pressure off. We'll start with the top left-hand picture, and that's where I'm holding her and she's starting to struggle. And the minute she starts to struggle, I put a little pressure on her chest, and the minute she stops struggling, I take the pressure off. She's going to struggle again, most likely. I put the pressure on, take it off, and then when she's good for 5 seconds, put her on the ground. And also practice that with, a couple days after she's built a little confidence, 2, 3, 4 days down the line. Start putting her in your arms on her back and apply the same pressure on her chest. And when she's good for 5 seconds, then put her on the ground. Everybody in the family should be participating in this, because then they're just learning that they have to comply, and this is how they're going to get their way. And it will help for future training, because we talk a lot in future training about pressure on, pressure off, like I did earlier with the leash. Eyes, ears, mouth, and feet. I can't tell you how important this one is too. Constantly handle their paws. Look between their pads. Look in their ears. Look at their teeth. Look at their eyes and open their eyes and blow in it. Because if they're pheasant hunting and they get stuff in there, you want to be able to blow it out. As you can see, I'm toweling Gabby off from her swim, so they got to get used to that too. And then in the lower right-hand side, Tom's actually clipping her nails. So when you constantly are handling these things on your puppy, by the time they get to 40, 50, 60, 70 pounds, they're already used to it. They know what you're going to do, and it just makes it easier to do things like clip their nails. So do all those things really early on. It's so important. Crate training and housebreaking. Now, I follow 90% of my husband's book. But the one thing before I met Tom, my dogs always slept in the dog bed with me, and that's kind of a personal preference. It's just my style. I don't have any human babies, so I like it when my dogs sleep with me. So yes, I did have my puppy in the bed for 4 weeks, the first 4 weeks. However, that doesn't always work for everybody, and I understand that. And so crate is really, really good for putting them in at night for travel time, in the car rides. What I'll do is when I had to pick Gabby up, I put her in the crate, but I put the crate by my hand so I could stick my hands in there, so she felt secure, and she was okay knowing I was there. But there are several different crates that you can purchase, and some people might say, hey, I just want to buy the large size. And if you do that, which is fine, save some money, make sure you partition off that large crate enough to where they have space to just lay down, because you don't want them doing their business in the crate. That would be the last thing. And then ideally try to make it a weekend pickup, because you're not going to get a lot of sleep the first couple nights. Simple crate rule: when your puppy comes out of that crate, immediately take them outside so they can do their business. Key reminders: get them really tired. Now here's Gabby running around with one of our dogs, and no water about an hour or two before bedtime. And then we talked about the travel time. Do some small trips, because it takes them a little bit to get used to the car, but you'll be doing a lot of traveling from one hunting spot to the next, or even just traveling to go on vacation. We bring our dogs everywhere with us, so we wanted to make sure they got used to that crate. House time. So I always had a rule: when they are in the house, if I'm watching them, and I was constantly following Gabby around, but I always had the 15-minute rule. Every 15 minutes, take them out and let them do their business, because especially if you can't pay attention. And I liked to get her crate time when I wasn't in the house, because then I could hear her crying. And so the last thing you want to do is take that puppy out when it's crying, because then they learned, oh, all I have to do is cry and I'll get my way. So what I would do is I'd go run an errand for an hour, or go mow the lawn, and I would put Gabby in the crate with a treat. Notice on the far left-hand side, I kind of put her in a little bit of a relaxed position. And then when she was relaxed, I would say her name, Gabby, and then I'd throw a treat in there so she'd want to go in there, establishing a positive environment because of that treat. She was definitely food motivated. And so that I didn't want to hear her cry. So those were the things I would do: go run an errand, and then come back an hour and a half later, and hopefully she was quiet. But this, keeping her relaxed, that just leads to eventual training when she's in the duck blind and she's on a platform. I'm trying to teach her, I need you to be steady. So she's learning the steady drill a little bit early on in her, as a baby, she's learning it actually. So she'll eventually, when we start that training, and we already did, so she caught on because she had experience in her babyhood, for lack of a better word. Nighttime. Okay, so I talked about what I did, but eventually Gabby was in the crate after 4 weeks. Now, a couple of food for thought here. Some people like to put that crate in the other room, but make sure that you can hear her or him, because the minute they start wrestling around, you want to immediately get them outside before they start barking, because the minute they start barking, it's almost a little too late. You want it, the minute you hear them stir, get them outside. I like some ideas that were given to me, as far as put the crate on top of the bed if you have enough room, or put a table next to some form of a table that's elevated, so you can put the crate on top of that, and so you can put your fingers in there so they can see you eye level. It's their first couple days away from their littermate, so they just need to have that sense of security. Feed in the crate, another great idea, because if you're traveling again and you need to feed them in the crate, again, you're establishing a positive environment for them, because they love food, they want to go and they want to eat. And so once again, I put the food in the crate, put Gabby in a relaxed position, say her name, because Gabby means go. And so again, she's learning this for future training as well. This is actually one of my favorite commands that my husband taught me when I first met him. I had no idea you could teach a puppy to pee or poop. And so I'm going to explain this because I didn't understand it at first myself when he first told me about it. But I brought Gabby outside, and the minute she'd start peeing, I would say the word, and this is what we use as a family. You can choose your own words. But the minute she starts peeing, you say outside, 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 outside. And then when she stops peeing, stop saying the word. So they're learning, oh, that word, that means to pee. And to this day, I can tell all my dogs outside, and they know that it means to go pee. Hurry is poop. So we just say hurry, hurry. So while she's pooping, say hurry, hurry, hurry. So again, she's learning, oh, that word, that must mean poop because I'm pooping while she's saying that word. So I thought that was one of the coolest commands he taught me, and it works great, especially when you're traveling and you need them to get out of the car and do their business right away so you can get on the road. Introducing your puppy to another dog. I can't say this enough, but please keep a hold of your dog or your puppy. Put them on a leash, but control them to begin with when you're introducing them to adult dogs, because you just don't know how your adult dog could be the nicest dog in the world, but you don't know how they're going to react when a puppy starts jumping on them and biting them. So just a good idea to keep them on a leash, keep hold of your puppy, walk them around together, and just make sure that she's not jumping on your puppy. Treat training, my favorite time of the day. It was actually 3 times a day because they were highly motivated right before they ate. So I always did treat training right before we fed them, and we fed them 3 times a day as a puppy. And they're not working for you, they're working for that food. So they will definitely hunt for food. So use their dog food for treats. And we only treat train till they were about 3 to 4 months, and then it was praised from then out. So to learn their name, all you're doing is putting your hand with their treat in front of their nose. Let them sniff it. Oh, she's got something good there. And then back up and say their name. Gabby, Gabby, Gabby. And I started early on just pushing their butt to the ground. I didn't say anything because my whole focus was getting them to know their name. And that was the focus for this particular drill. However, when I started the come drill or the here drill, we prefer here because it's just stronger. You can use come, it doesn't matter, but I catch myself saying come here all the time. And so again, you're going to extend your hand in front of her nose, so she knows that you have a treat, and then back up and say here, here, here. And eventually when they come, and again, we're not working on the sit command yet, but I would just push her butt down just a little bit just to get her used to that. But the minute she'd get to me, I'd give her her treat. So you can practice this with 2 people. Tom and I often did that, so they really understood that command. And then sit command. Now I started, when I started saying here, then I started pushing her butt down and saying sit as I was pushing it down. The minute she'd get into a sit, then I would give her the treat. So timing is really important. And we use sit a lot. Notice all these dogs sitting here. They're actually waiting to go out the door. We have a rule. You cannot just barge out the door. You need to sit. And when we call your name, then you may go outside. And that's the same thing for the duck blind, because if you're hunting with another person's dog, you can't just say okay because they'll both get the retrieve. They have to be able to go on their name. All right, the down command. I just did this on the platform, but she learned it in the house, on the floor, on the grass. It doesn't matter where you do that, but I just took an opportunity to do this on the platform. So again, I'm putting a little pressure with my hand on her shoulders, leading her down to the ground with a treat, and slowly she goes down. And when she gets down there with the down command, I tend to give them 3 or 4 treats because they don't always want to stay down very long, but they're learning, oh, this is a great place to be. I think I'll stay down here. Could you give me a few more treats, please? So place, okay, I talked about this earlier. It's one of my favorite commands because we use it everywhere. So it's a place means to get onto something. So get onto your dog bed, get onto your platform, get onto the duck blind platform. So it means you're teaching movement is what you're teaching. And Gabby learned this when she was 8 weeks of age. As you can see, I'm leading her onto the platform with the treat, and she just follows the treat right on the platform. The minute she's got all four paws up there, give her the treat. So these 8-week-old puppies are sponges. They want to learn, and well, of course, they're motivated by the food, but that's okay. That's why you use the food to encourage them to learn, but they just take it all in, and they want to learn every single day. Another place platforms that we utilize. So here on the left-hand side, we're actually working with some upland work where Gabby is on her little platform. Now that black platform, we take that everywhere duck hunting. So when we are duck hunting, whether we're on land or we're right by the water, we want Gabby to be on something. That way she doesn't have to be in a perfect heel sit position. So if I just happen to walk away from the platform, I've already told her place. She has to stay there. She knows that. And it's such a great tool to use when you are duck hunting because, again, she doesn't have to be in a perfect heel position. Middle picture, we're working with dummies in the water. And again, as long as she is on that platform, doesn't matter if she's standing or sitting. And then Tom was practicing in August at Game Fair with Gabby getting on this type of platform because eventually he'll probably use her in seminars. So place continued. Again, here she is in the duck blind. And then there are times when I'm in the water with my waders knee deep. So Gabby needs to be elevated out a little bit higher. So this is one of her platforms that we use in the water. And then of course, our favorite is when we can place them on their bed in the house. Things that we practice, we tell her to place on the bed, and then we knock on the door like we're the UPS man or the FedEx man or a neighbor, and we test them. And if they get off, we command them to do place again, because the last thing you want them to act like is a linebacker and just tackling your guests. So we have some rules in the house, and that is one of them. They need to be in their place when guests come over. Okay, this is my favorite time to use place. Of course, I take thousands of pictures of my dogs. Who doesn't? And this actually was this year, a week ago, where Gabby got to sit next to the Grinch. And then my 7th grade students always loved to see what picture I had and what dogs were in it for that beginning year. So it's my favorite venue to use the word place. Kennel. Kennel means to get into something. And once again, you're going to train that early on when they're babies. So you're going to lead them in the kennel with a treat and say kennel, give them the command kennel. And the minute they get in there, give them the treat. This is in the back of our Ranger, these two, of course, and we train every day. So this is our training venue here. And then you've got a dog blind where you got to practice that too as well. I mean, all these things you need to expose them to before you get out into the field. And the earlier you can expose them and let them have those experiences, the better. Heel. So it's just amazing. This is an 8-week-old puppy, and the fact that they can learn heel at 8 weeks of age, and it's all because of a little treat. So as you can see in the first top left-hand side, I'm leading Gabby off the platform, and slowly she's following my hand, and then I simply do a half a circle with my arm and extend it out to where she circles around into a heel position. I push her butt down, and then I give her the treat. So it's just amazing how she did this so fast, but it's so much fun when you see these puppies pick this up as quickly as they do. This was another hard command for me to get used to not saying with my puppies when I first met Tom, because he kept saying, no, you don't want to tell them no, 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 because then they're learning that when they carry something, that's a no. If they're carrying something that they're not supposed to, first of all, it's a trainer's dream when they see a puppy wanting to carry things all the time, because that just leads to, okay, you're going to be carrying my birds for me when I shoot them for you. So carrying is a trainer's dream. So you want that carry instinct. I would just say, oh, thank you for picking up around the house for me. Thank you for not ruining my money. But as she gets older, now she's like the two lower right hand pictures. Now I want her to come to me first. So I always say here, because otherwise she'll run away from you with the item she's not supposed to have. So she knows. I've caught her a couple times with this, and I have her here because I want her to know that coming to me is the safest place to be. So the minute she comes and I say here, and she comes to me, I don't want her thinking, oh, I'm in trouble, I'm not going to show up. The minute she gets to me, I'm going to praise her. Even though she has something that I don't want. So there are times when we set her up, we watch her go get the toilet paper from the counter, and at that point in time when we're able to catch her, now this is at an older age on the lower right hand side, we'll say, no. But at this stage where they're this young, carrying toilet paper around, you just got to go, oh, good girl, way to carry it. Thank you so much for bringing that into me. I was just thinking about going to the bathroom. So these things are important. That was hard for me to get used to, but she now knows the word no, and she's familiar with it. Two bad habits when they're a puppy that they're going to get into. The first one on the right-hand side, these two pictures, they're so used to nipping at their litter mates and biting their litter mates because that's how they would have fun. And so they're going to try that on you. So after being home for about 4 or 5 days, when they've gained a little confidence, they're going to try to nip at you too. And the minute they do that, just put your hand on top of their nose or their jowls, and then just curl their lips under. So what they're learning is the minute I bite her, all of a sudden I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable by what she just did to me. So they're learning, yeah, I don't think I want that to happen anymore, so I'm not going to reach out and nip you. And then as far as jumping goes, when they're young like this, just give them a little nudge on their chest. When they get older, you can look at putting a little soft little knee to their chest and say off. You don't want to say down because down is a command, so off would be the right word to use. Loud noises, again, expose them to lots of different environments. We are walking down Main Street here. That's actually in Northfield, but on the right and the left, that's actually Main Street. That's with Gabby walking down Main Street, Webster. But get them used to noisy environments. If something startles them, don't immediately go, oh, good girl, good boy. You want them to think that noise was a great thing. You don't want to go, oh, it's okay, because then you're coddling them. So just make sure if you hear that loud noise and it startles them, just say, oh, good job, good girl. Make it a happy thing that they just heard. First feathers, the wing. Now, the wing, as you can see, Tom is putting the wing down on the floor to see how she's going to react. And she goes over there and she smells it because it's her first time smelling it. And Tom goes over and he moves it a little bit. And she's like, well, wait a minute. I don't want you to move, so I'm going to pick you up. And then I'm going to hold you. And the minute she's holding it, Tom just pets her and praises her and does not take that wing out of her mouth right away. Now, if we did this twice, and then you're done. And I mean you're done because you just opened their instinct. You might do it a couple times the following week, but you've opened those instincts. You don't need to do any more. A lot of people think they've got to keep throwing things for them to retrieve, and that's not the case. You've now opened their instinct for the wing, for the bird, and you only have to do it a couple times, maybe the first time you do it, and then maybe the second or third week do it again, but then that's it. And you will move to the pole, the wing on the pole, where now you're going to get the chasing. So as you can see, it's on the ground and he's moving the pole. So you're going to get that chase effect, and they'll chase it, they'll catch it, let them catch it, let them walk around and be proud. Look what I have. But again, this is only something you're going to do a couple times, and then you're done. You open that instinct. Your job is done until they see their first frozen pigeon at 5 months of age, a bird and gone. Introduction to water. Fortunately, in September, when Gabby was 8 weeks of age, the South Dakota weather was mid 80s. So I took her for a really long walk to get her really nice and hot. And this was her first time in the water. So I went in there and I waded in the water and I kind of turned my back so she follows me. And then I see that she's getting a little deeper, a little deeper. And then I keep moving forward with my back towards her. And then eventually she starts swimming, and then I fell off a ledge. So Tom said, "Oh, we can't put that on YouTube." I fell twice. Tom fell once. And I said, "Well, no, I'm sure that happens to people. So I'm going to definitely, put that on YouTube because the training's not always going to be perfect. Things are going to happen to you, but it is not a requirement that you fall into the water." So she had 9 swimming lessons, I call them. And it was so much fun to get her started in the water. We didn't think we'd be able to in September, but we were able to. Moving along, so all of these things we've talked about so far just teaches respect for the family members, for the puppy, give them lots of different experiences early on, let them explore. This just builds your foundation so that when you move on in training, they're confident puppies and they're looking at you like, okay, what's next, dude? That's what they're thinking in their mind. They just want to keep learning. So this just establishes confidence. Equipment train. Now, it's, what time is it? It's okay. So we're at about 12:42 and I want to save some time for questions. And so this is the transition phase where you go from treat training to leash training. And I'm going to go through this really fast, but all of these videos are on my YouTube channel. So all of these pictures you see, that's from a video. So go in and watch the sit command with the leash and treat, the heel command, the come or here. Go ahead and watch them. You don't need to see these pictures. It's way better when you're watching it live. And so you're just basically leading the dog with the treat and you're giving a little snug on the leash to also get them used to that as well, that pressure on, pressure off that we've talked about. And again, I'm just going to, congratulations, you just reached the foundation. And so they are ready for the next step. And you've created a confident puppy and you've created positive environments. And it's just going to mean that they're training and the trainers, whoever you use for trainers, are going to love you because you are already ahead of the game with doing all these things for your puppy. The next step is Bird and Gun Introduction Program. They're 5 months of age. It's a 2-week professionally done with 2 trainers. However, that program is on my YouTube channel. So if you choose to do it by yourself, go ahead. Intermediate program is a little bit more involved. But that's when they're 8 months of age and you have a 10-week customized course where that includes customer training. So how do you get a hold of me? Go ahead and take a picture of this so you have all this information. When you go on YouTube, all you have to do is search Tina Dokken and it should pull up Tina Dokken Unleashed right away. And so this is Gabby now that she's older. She's having a little bit more fun with her training. And in the snow, that was recently a week ago. So I'm really excited about Gabby. We have a lot of fun. So with that being said, I want to leave some time for questions. It's 12:44. So at this point, I think I'm going to get out of the, oh, these are my questions. So I don't know if I'm supposed to read them.
I will do that for you, Tina.
Okay, thank you.
So people want to take a picture of this so you know how to get a hold of Tina. And then,
okay, so should I go back to the share and then they can look at that share?
yeah, so.
Okay, there we go.
And then I think Benji or Cassie will take off that intro slide. So you'll be big once you get out of this. But
okay,
the first question, I think you answered it. How many dogs do you have?
3.
Yep, 3 left.
Yep, 3. Yep.
Okay. And if you have questions right now, go ahead and put them in the Q&A because that's the easiest place for me to see them. But in the chat, someone wrote, oh, shoot, I have to get into the chat.
Should I get out of my PowerPoint right now? I just did.
Yeah, you can. Benji or Cassie, can you get rid of that intro slide? I'm not sure why that's not going off. We'll just wait for that to disappear.
Okay.
Somebody, Julia said, I'm still
Hi,
catching
Julia.
pressure on, pressure off. Oh, shoot, my thing just went away. Hold on. Our dog is pretty good for me, but not with others. So that's what you were talking. Oh, there we go. That's what you're
Yeah.
talking where it's important to do the pressure on, pressure off, but not just for you, but go ahead and explain that more.
Yeah, so when they're a puppy, you want to start that with anybody in your family because they're young, they're small, and they're learning to comply. And then as they get older, you could do it on the couch if they're heavier, but basically they're learning that you're in charge. And when you get further in the training using the leash, they're going to learn that pressure on, pressure off too as well. And that was in the last part of these slides. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, it's so important that everybody in the family knows those same
Hmm.
commands so the dog isn't confused. And it seems like dogs are happy when they know what they're supposed
Yeah, it's important that everybody understands the commands and that you're consistent. Consistent is key. So if everybody is participating and looking at their paws and looking at their ears and their eyes, they're not going to question who does it. They're just going to allow it to happen. So it's important that everybody practices the same things and gives the same command, relaxes them before they go into the crate. So if everybody does this, it's just going to be constant reinforcement of what they're supposed to be doing now and in the future.
And Alicia mentioned that too many folks use crates as a prison. That was just a comment that she made.
Sure.
So Jeff asked, is it possible to train non-sporting breeds to hunt?
Yes, absolutely. It's all a question of are they how did they do with frozen pigeons or birds? And that would be something. So, for instance, at Oak Ridge Kennels, if you have a dog that you're unsure, they're not really a hunting breed, and you want to just go to Oak Ridge Kennels and have your dog analyzed, they'll put them through some tests and see where they're at. But the earlier you can start them, the better. I mean, you don't want to start a kid at 18 years old just playing basketball. You want to start them really, really young so that you bring those instincts out and see if they even have those instincts to begin with. So that's something that we offer, which is nice for our customers who are not sure, and they can kind of walk you through it. Give us a call and set up an appointment to do that.
Okay. Rick asked, would it be beneficial to get a started dog, quote unquote, or would that create a disconnect between the dog and the owner?
Started dogs, we don't sell a lot of started dogs. Reason being is you don't know what's under the hood. You don't know what things happen to them as a baby. And so you don't know what you're getting. Therefore, you don't know what training possible challenges that you might run into. However, that being said, if you know somebody who's had this puppy from the beginning and needs to, find a new home for it, and you've seen this puppy work, I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't start with a started dog. Also, we have trainers that will raise this puppy from the beginning. If that's something you're concerned about, not wanting to have to deal with the puppyhood, we have people that actually will take that on for a month, and we're secure with knowing that they'll do the right things for that puppy early on. So that's just another option, possibility.
Okay, Sherry asked, what is the best time of year to get a puppy?
The best time of year, I picked the worst time of the year. But I couldn't help nature. This was the breeding that I wanted, and Tom was bummed that I was getting her September 22nd because then you don't necessarily have a chance to get them in the water as an 8-week-old puppy. So the best time of the year is around December, January, February, because think about this, when they're 5 months of age, they can go through bird and gun. Then you can hunt them a little bit. Then to get a finish hunting dog, you would need to do that intermediate program that starts at 8 months of age, and that takes 10 weeks. So do the math when you're looking at, December, January, February. Make sure you get that finish hunting dog finished before your first hunting season. So that would be the ideal, December, January, February. So you get all that training in the first season they're hunting, and they're a finished hunting dog. You're not a finished hunting dog through bird and gun introduction. That's just giving them the ability to hunt. So they're not finished at that point.
Okay, Jake asked, how much does a puppy from Oak Ridge cost? But just in general, if you're looking at a pedigree dog, what can you expect to spend? It doesn't need to be from Oak Ridge, but just in,
Sure, roughly pedigrees, minimum $1,500. And that's a really good pedigree, well bred, health certifications, minimum if you're buying from a breeder.
yeah. And that's something I learned new, that exercise-induced collapsion. That's a new
Excellent.
thing that it's good to know about when you ask your breeder. Rick also asked, do you recommend a dog breed from different types of hunt, bird versus game versus water, or is one dog breed enough to be able to train them all around?
Okay, say that one more time. That
Yeah.
was a lot.
So I think what he's asking, like, do you need to have a certain type of bird, like a bird dog, water dog, or can you just have one breed that is all around, can do anything?
Well, and that's why labs are so popular because they can do the waterfowl, they can do the upland. So I guess it depends on what you want to do. If you're mainly upland, you want smaller, you want to look at other hunting breeds. I would say the best thing to do is talk to a trainer. Now, I'm not officially a dog trainer. I know enough to be dangerous because I train with my husband every day. And obviously, I've been around him for the last 25 years. But he would be, or one of the trainers would be the best people to talk about um, what dog. This I mainly pheasant hunt, so what dog should I get? I would say a lab only because I love my labs. But also, you've got to do research on their personalities and how are they in the house? How are they with family? That's really important to talk about their personalities. I mean, if you're looking at different breeds and then you call the breeder of that breed, well, of course they're going to say these are the most fantastic dogs ever. But I think it would be best for you to talk to a dog trainer and reach out to me if you'd like. I can always ask my husband, depending on what you're looking. If you're looking for a breed other than a lab, we could talk you through that. But mainly, that's why labs are so versatile. And there are other hunting breeds that are versatile too as well. So it's kind of a personal preference and what you're looking for. But reach out to me, and I can always ask that question if you have a specific hunting breed that you're looking at.
Okay. And something that you had mentioned to us earlier, I'm still looking for more questions to come in, but this whole puppy training, you don't even necessarily have to be a hunting dog. It's just, like you were saying earlier, it's just good manners training.
Absolutely.
That doesn't tackle the UPS or, we have steps in our house, so it's train them to stay at the top of the steps so you don't knock yourself down. So everyone.
Absolutely, Linda. All these commands, Linda, that we learned just on, I mean, that doesn't have to be for a hunting dog. I mean, good manners, placing on a, kennel if you're traveling, place on your dog bed when guests come over, sitting before the door before they're allowed out. I mean, these are all just good manners. You want them to come here. So these commands can be used for any breed.
Right. We have some comments here. Julia said, when my first dog, Ren, came to us in February, I introduced her to water in the tub in increments. She is the most water-driven dog I've met. But yeah, and labs are just water dogs too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the key with puppies is trying to do it on their terms as far as water introduction. A couple things that I want to mention, never put anything in a puppy's mouth. And don't pick them up and put them in the water necessarily, like if you're at a lake or pond, because you want to do it on their terms because it's about them building their own confidence and doing things on their own. But those a couple things that I want to make sure that I get out.
Okay. Jeff asked, if a young dog is extremely bothered by loud noises like fireworks, gunshots, is there any hope to get them past severe gun shyness?
That's a tough one. Have we done that before? Yes. It normally would take twice to three times as long compared to the normal bird and gun introduction. But it's a possibility, no guarantee. So you're going to spend your money, I'd rather you spend your money to do it right the first time than fixing a problem. There's no guarantee that they'll get it out of them. But have I seen it happen? Yes, I have. So there's no lost hope. But fireworks is huge. Just keep your puppy away from fireworks, gunshots. With all the information out on the web, I'm still surprised when people take their puppy to a gun range and, oh, they were fine, but you had a 50-50 chance of getting it right. They're either going to like it or they're not going to like it. And if they don't like it, well, you might not have a hunting dog anymore. So that burn gun introduction, at a minimum, that is the most important program that you can do for your gun dog, is that program. If you do no other program, whether you do it for us, with us, or somebody else, please take that program very seriously, because that will decide whether you're going to have a hunting dog or not.
So what I just heard from you say, like, don't introduce your gun dog to a gun until like 5 months when you start that.
5 months of age, correct. And I mean, we say don't do any shooting, don't fireworks. Yes, that's when they're confident. They're at a point where they're able to handle that. And why 5 months of age? Well, they're getting rid of their teeth. Their adult teeth have started to grow in already. Their baby teeth have gone, so now they can pick up those frozen pigeons. So that's why Tom's been doing for so long that 5 months was a key age to get them in to do that burn gun introduction. It's Camp Snoopy. It's all fun, and it's slowly introducing the gun with a positive reinforcement, which is the bird.
Okay, well, that's really interesting. I think that's all the questions. If you have any questions, put them in the Q&A. I had asked you one, this might be the last one too, we're getting close at 1 o'clock, but one of my biggest concerns was you have your breeder, and then you got these 10 puppies. Which one do you pick? And what was your answer to me?
My answer was you pretty much just pick up a puppy and you're good to go. The pedigree says it all. So now they might have a personality difference as far as one might have a little bit more drive than the other, but that's when you start working with the breeder and ask them, okay, which one has more, explores a little bit more, or which one has a little bit more drive. But for the most part, any of those puppies can be made into a great hunting dog, a great house pet, and have good manners. So yeah.
Okay, there is another question that came in. We just still have 3 minutes. Aaron
Okay.
asked, let them have any chew toys. You kind of addressed that, but
Yeah,
these
no,
are
that was a
chew-
no-no. Now my first chocolate had about 100 of them, but the squeaky toys just reinforce them squeezing up and down. So then when they go to training with retrieving your game, they tend to squeeze, squeeze the game, and that's something that you don't want them to do. So that was a tough one for me. So Nyla Bones, the Antler is great because they work on that thing for such a long time that it just gives you a break. If you don't want to put them in the crate and you just want to have them out.
Okay.
But yeah, and they don't splinter, so that's why they work well for that.
So the chew, he asked specifically the chew toys. So the Nyla bones and the antlers you like for chew things.
Yes.
Squeaky. Yeah.
Yeah, no squeak. As long as it's not a squeaky toy, anything hard that they can just work on and not destroy, not splinter. But yes, anything hard.
Okay. I think I might have asked this already. Can you train your dog for hunting if they're not a puppy? Did I ask you that already?
No, I don't believe so. And again, that's something that we wouldn't know until we actually see the dog, like if it's a year and a half. Yeah, you could definitely start all of these things and see if it works for them. Bird and gun would be the first program you'd want, that even though they're a year and a half, bird and gun introduction is where they would start, because you need to get them birdie and see if they have any interest. And that would be where, I don't know what other programs offer, but we do offer bring your dog down and we'll see how they are before we enroll them. We'll see if they have any sense of prey drive or birdiness.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop for now because we've answered pretty much all the questions. I want to thank you, Tina. You're very dedicated to helping, especially for the Becoming Outdoor Woman program, to help women learn outdoor skills. And you're going to be part of that pheasant hunt that's coming up next October or
Yes,
August.
in South Dakota, yes.
Yeah. But So thank you. I really appreciate all the effort that you put into this, and it was a lot of work for you, and I really appreciate it. For the audience, our next webinar next Wednesday is going to be on snowmobiling in Minnesota, and here in Brainerd we have 8 inches of snow, so I think snowmobile season is going to start. And again, Tina, thank you so much for driving to the lodge and
Yes.
talk with you in person.
Thank you for the opportunity, Linda. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, well, thank you. And we're going to go in the back room now, and thank you everybody for attending.